Good morning, esteemed representatives. My name is Sam Midman, and I'm here as sponsor of HB 5, Right to Work. Right to work. It's as simple as that. We want to give all American workers access to the right to employment without any obstruction.
My mom has been a teacher for 27 years, and since Right to Work was enacted in Wisconsin for the first time in those 27 years, her salary was decreased.
If workers are enchained with no way to escape the union's limitations, how can they have a chance at the American dream?
If you look at the people who support this bill, who is it? Business owners. 99% of the people in the workforce are workers. You guys, you all, 99% of you are going to be screwed by this.
Wisconsin Eye is talking to Middleton High School students who at the recent legislative semester worked on the Right to Work bill. So could you give us your name and your party affiliation, please?
My name is Katie Briggs, and I'm a Republican.
And I am Jonas Keeler, and I am an independent.
And why did you choose the Right to Work issue to focus on? Katie, you want to go first?
Yeah, it's something that I think is really reasonable conceptually, and I thought the bill was written really well. It's a bill that I completely agree with, so it was something that I cared a lot about.
I rise in support of HB 5, Right to Work. This bill enables individuals to choose to cease supporting a labor union.
So summarize the bill.
So Right to Work basically allows workers to cease union membership, or then of course to continue to be a part of unions and support unions if they so choose.
The involvement in a labor union by any employee should not have a direct effect on any other employee, nor should the lack of involvement in a labor union.
So they wouldn't have to pay union dues, they wouldn't have to be a member of the union?
Correct.
Okay. And Jonas, why did you focus on this issue?
I focused on the issue of right to work because I grew up in a very pro-union family. My father was the vice president of the Teachers Labor Union for a little bit. And I mean, it's always been a thing I've been interested in, and I've never really knew what labor unions were really about. So this is a bill that started my interest for this.
This bill hides behind the guise of benefiting workers. Labor unions fight for workers' rights and are the basis to countless labor laws put in place during America's horrid period of industrialization.
How did you research the Right to Work issue? Jonas, you want to go first this time?
For my research, it included me spending many hours online looking at topics posted by various sources on their opinions on the right to work. I also spent quite a few hours talking to my father about labor unions, how they work, their structure, all that sort of thing.
Follow-up, what do you think is the biggest benefit that unions have brought to the American workplace?
Well, they kind of are the basis for our labor laws in our country as of current. I mean, in the industrial era, we were horribly corrupt and things were horrible in regards to factories. Things were bad, and they were really what got our country back on its feet and towards progression.
Thank you. And Katie, how did you do research on the topic?
I focused a lot on the bill itself and did some fact-checking involving that. I also read versions of the bill that have been implemented in other states, kind of checking for commonalities or what may have been different. They were all relatively similar. Obviously, there's been a lot of discussion locally about it recently, so just read a few news articles, did some more fact-checking.
Okay. And why do you feel so strongly that the right to work law should be repealed?
To reiterate, this bill does not infringe on anyone's right to belong to a union or experience the benefits associated with union membership. It merely allows for a choice.
Yeah, I'm for right to work because I think that there was definitely a time and place for unions. As Jonas said, I personally don't think that place is here and now. Unions definitely do still help out workers a lot, but there are a lot of people, I think, who are being forced to pay union dues and supporting causes that they don't really agree with.
Okay, can I ask the most surprising thing that you learned from doing your research on the right to work issue? Katie, I think it's your turn.
Honestly, because I'm so in support of the bill, I thought it was interesting that there was opposition to it. Initially reading the bill, I was very confused as to how anybody could be opposed to it. Then talking to some people like Jonas and during full session, I started to understand that a little bit more, but that was really interesting to me.
30 seconds for Quinton.
The sponsors may say that this bill will not kill unions, but because unions can be considered a public good, if you no longer charge for a public service, then it will follow a predicted path of economic disaster, that everyone would assume the other would pay so no funds would be received. We may consider unions a good thing, but you are in fact killing them.
And Jonas, your biggest surprise?
Well, in all honesty, for me, my biggest surprise, I would even just say the most interesting thing that I learned was just talking to my dad about how the labor unions work, how they interact with their employers, how they get what they want. It was really just kind of mind-blowing for me that this was all happening without anyone really knowing except for the people in the union themselves.
Okay, now repeat your floor speeches, not all of them, but give us your strongest arguments. I mean, if you were talking to the full session, you would say what, Jonas?
Well, the whole point of my impromptu speech that I gave was that the bill's sponsors, they suggested that this bill is only going to make unions optional, but I believe that given the wording of the bill, it would make it so that unions became something that either you joined, and if you joined, you pay the dues, and if you weren't in part of the unions, then you would get the same units that the people from the unions get, but you wouldn't have to pay the dues, therefore no one would join the unions, and unions would become nothing, because no one would be in them.
Ladies and gentlemen of the 6th legislative semester, today you are offered a choice, and that's exactly what this bill really boils down to, a choice. But with these compulsory union dues, unions do not need to earn a worker's support, they can compel it.
Katie, you're up. Give your best arguments.
During full session, the phrase pro-choice was thrown around a few times, which some Democrats were getting a little bit upset about.
Pro-choice is allowing me to make decisions concerning my own body, not attempting to destroy unions and workers' rights.
Obviously, pro-choice is a phrase usually used in regard to abortion, but it really does apply to this bill. It simply allows for a choice. The bill is entirely cost neutral and it doesn't infringe on anyone else's rights. Really, a lot of Democrats had the argument that it seeks to kill unions, but really the passage of the bill would just allow for union existence to be determined by actual support and approval of the unions, not by forcing people to pay union dues to support unions that they don't want to support.
I counsel you to see past the party lines that so often get in the way and see a bill that is giving our workers back a right to a choice. Please show your support for HB 05, a bill to end compulsory union fees. Thank you for your time.
Were you surprised that this failed by, if my number's right, a vote of 120 to 146?
Personally, I was a bit surprised. I was expecting it to pass just because I believe the bill sponsors did a great job presenting this bill, and they worded it really well. And I know that we are in a kind of a liberal area, being Middleton, Wisconsin, but just the way it was presented made me think this bill was going to pass. And having it fail, it made me happy, but it was surprising to me.
This bill seeks to actively dismantle these labor unions, despite what the sponsors may say. Representatives, I urge you, I plead you, that if you care about our country's workers, our doctors, our teachers, sorry, I plead you to vote against this bill.
Also, this bill has no cost of implementation. The only associated expenses are the union dues paid by union members, a current cost that is unfortunately forced. It is personal and is not contributed to by taxpayers.
Well, as a sponsor, they worked very hard on it and argued for it. Talk about the outcome.
Yeah, I agree that the writers of the bill worked really hard on it. They presented it really well. I did think it was going to fail just because it was sponsored by Republicans, and here in our legislative semester, the Republicans are the minority. So I figured most Democrats would be opposed to it, so it would fail. I was actually surprised that the vote was so close.
Well, talk about your experience with legislative semester. Good thing, bad thing? Did it make you want to be more involved in how a law is made and how capitals work, or what?
Personally, I think that the legislative semester is a really interesting experience. It can be very frustrating at times. There were some times where you wanted to yell at people, but you have to maintain civil discourse. Times where you want to get your point across, but you just don't have enough time to. And in regards to me wanting to get more into politics because of this class, I wouldn't say it made me want to become a politician or make me go do something with politics in my life, but made me feel or get more into the issues that our country's facing. And
Katie?
Yeah, this class has really made me realize how important it is to be involved with politics. We're so lucky in America that we get to vote and we have a say at all in our government. And politics has always been something that I've been interested in, but I've definitely learned a lot from this. I would say that because of this class, I've learned a lot about myself and my interests, and I would be interested in pursuing a career in politics.
So you'd be interested in running at some point?
Yeah, definitely.
Is that a recent decision on your part?
Relatively recent, I'd say, yeah.
And Jonas, you ever going to run for anything?
no,
No?
never.
Why?
Run against me.
You're going to run against her?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I just have no interest in being a politician in my future.
Okay. Well, thanks. Jonas, thanks, Katie, for talking to Wisconsin Eye about your passion for the right to work bill, which, I'm sorry, Katie, failed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.